Hey there friends, Alex Laux here and welcome back to the channel. Well, we did it. We have reached the end of 2024 and it has certainly been an interesting year in the global sphere, but you know what? I've had a really great time here on the channel this year and I just wanted to talk about what I've done with the channel, where things are going for 2025 and looking back at some of the items that I've reviewed. So we're here in Oakville, Ontario in McCraney Valley, so let's keep walking and I can talk a little bit about what's going to be happening in 2025. All right, let's go. So 2025 isn't going to bring any real changes to how the channel is going to work. I'm still going to be putting out at minimum 2 videos a month, and that will be again on Wednesdays because I'm sticking to the 2 posts per week on my blog on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that puts Wednesday as the ideal time to actually put content out here on the schedule. One thing you're also going to see is a little more regularity when it comes to short form content, and those videos will go up on Saturdays, usually around 8-9 o'clock in the morning. I haven't really decided on what an ideal time would be yet, but think of this short form content as trailers for what's going to be happening on the main video in the week, especially if it's a review of a camera or a film or something along those lines. And that's another thing you will see a little bit of next year is there's going to be a couple of more film reviews. I'm hoping to do HP5 and FP4. I got some great camera reviews all lined up already by the time you're watching this. And even some great developer reviews coming down the line that I am just really looking forward to doing. And speaking of reviews, I actually really liked what I did this year on the channel for my reviews. Not only was I able to tie in every single camera review that I wrote on the blog here on the channel, I also had a chance to go back and revisit a couple of older cameras that I have written about in the past but have never done a video review until last year. I also did some film reviews and really got that format settled, along with a great format for my developer review. So let's head back home and I can talk about my review of my reviews in 2024. And I'll meet you back here in a few. Okay, so this year I decided to make a point to focus fairly heavily on reviews here on the channel. Now, a lot of the reviews also coincided with some of my written reviews, but the nice thing about having this channel is that I can go back and revisit some cameras that I've reviewed on the blog in the past and can bring new life to them and a new set of images here on the channel. It also, because people sort of absorb knowledge differently, it gives them something a little more visual that they can listen to rather than read static on a screen. So what cameras did I review on the channel this year? Well, let's start off with one camera that got a review after its written one was done, and that would be the beautiful Graflex Century 35 or Kawa Kalo 35, depending on where you've picked it up and the branding. This is a beautiful mid-century fixed lens rangefinder. It was a gift from my dear friend John Meadows, and even though it's a camera that I don't shoot that often, it was great to get it out into the field. Absolutely love the results. Plus I was able to test out the Aster Hori XH2 meter on it as well, which gives a nice compact hot shoe mounted meter, an alternative just depending on how I feel from the Rearview Labs or carrying around something handheld. The one thing I do want to do is find a nice strap for it so I can use it a little bit better. It's a little heavy to carry in the hands, but you know what? This is a great little camera and I'm glad I had a chance to review it, and more importantly, I'm glad it worked because cameras this age, they're starting to get a little bit long in the tooth. So one camera that I reviewed this year that was both brand new written and was done here on the channel is the Canon EOS Elan 7. This is a brilliant camera and one that I'm very glad that I managed to get a hold of to replace my Elan 2E. The Elon 2E and 2 are not bad cameras. I think it was just my copy that was a bit janky. So I'm very happy to have this camera. This has now come along on a few adventures, a few photo walks, and best of all, I was able to pick up the enhanced kit lens, the USM 28-105. Look for a lens review on this coming up in the new year. Another camera I reviewed that has become a fast favorite is the Minolta Dynex 600 SI Classic. This is the forerunner to my much beloved Maxim 9, and although this one I have since had to put gaffer tape over the grip because it decided to completely and totally fall apart and collapse on me between when I reviewed it and now. I haven't really taken this out on any trips, but it has come on a few photo walks, and I absolutely adore the results I get out of it, and I can't wait to continue to use this more. If I do any sort of traveling next year, especially ones that require airline flight, it's probably going to be this camera and this lens, the 24-105, that comes along on that trip. And I'll probably leave the battery grip on there, but we shall see. The one camera that really surprised me in this year in how much I enjoyed using it is the Reto Kodak Ektar H35N. This is a half frame camera. It's the second version, so it has a 2-element hybrid lens, so one plastic, one coated glass. I really need to get this back to a collector chrome, Molly. Hopefully by the time this video posts, I will have put this in the post and it will be on its way back to her. I haven't used it since I reviewed it, mostly because I just have so many other cameras to shoot with, but this was a lot of fun to work with. Not enough for me to actually go out and buy one of these, but makes me seriously consider getting a couple more half-frame cameras into the review mix. Maybe next year, maybe not. I'm not 100% sure. If someone's willing to loan me a Pentax 17, I wouldn't say no to that. Or a Canon Demi 17, that looks like a really enjoyable camera to work with also. But yeah, I was really surprised at the quality and how quickly I could shoot through a roll of 24 or 48 frames on this thing, and really surprised at the quality that the camera put out. Another camera that surprised me, and it's a little different from my normal fare on this channel, and that's the Sony WX7 Digicam. This is 2010 released camera, so it has a CMOS instead of a CCD sensor, so people might not consider this a Digicam, but the form factor and the fact that it's purple certainly makes it a Digicam in my book. I'm really surprised how good the quality of JPEG images come out of here and how much I can actually work and edit them in Lightroom. So yeah, I, again, haven't used this since the summer, but it will definitely come along on sort of day trips where I can't really carry a camera bag and just want a camera to capture family snapshots and just the scenery. This one will do just fine. And last, but certainly not least, it was the longest, most complex, and biggest camera review I have ever done on the channel, and that is my Crown Graphic. I really liked how I formatted it. It was really time consuming to do because I shot the one section over the course of several days, and it took me a lot longer to film the studio portions, but I am really happy with the results that I got out of the review, and definitely makes me think that maybe next year I'll go back and revisit another 4x5 camera that I've written about on the blog, the Linhof Technica 5, and get that into the field again and really give myself that punishment for doing a large format camera review. So we shall see what next year brings in the review side of things, especially for cameras. I have a few on deck already. First off is a Miranda Sensor X, which has been sent to me by my good friend Jim Gray, a fellow camera blogger, and if you aren't subscribed to his blog Down the Road, I highly recommend you do that. It is just a delightful mix of infrastructure history, personal thoughts and essays about his faith and life in general, and some really good film and camera reviews as well. So that's up next for next year, plus a couple more surprises, but I haven't confirmed anything yet. And here on the channel, I got a couple of good camera reviews up. The first one being the Minolta Weathermatic 35DL. Okay, so another thing that I started doing this year on the channel was reviewing film stocks. And it took me a while really to figure out how to do it, which is why there's really only 2 standard film reviews here on the channel, and a third one that is different, because you'll understand why in a little bit. But it really got me thinking about doing a few more of them next year. So what films did I review this year? Well, first off is the film that no one saw coming, and that was Harman Phoenix 200. This is an ASA 200 color negative film that came out of Harman Technologies, Harman Photo, the same people who do Ilford Photo, but Harman Photo is their color production branding. Phoenix 200 is based on Ilford XP2, a chromogenic black and white film. It's a C41 process that had a lot of people struggling, and it mostly had to do with how the film was being scanned. Now, they have, since I did my review, released this film in 120, and a lot of people are liking it in medium format more than 35mm. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to shoot it in 120 yet, but hopefully I will fix that up next year, probably in the summer when we have far better light available, and maybe if we have a beautiful fall like we did this year, I will definitely shoot a couple rolls at that point as well, probably through my Rolleiflex, because I really think the planar lens will do the Phoenix 200 justice. And hopefully Harman Technologies will continue to improve on Phoenix and probably make it better. I know there's been a lot of chatter online about what the true film speed is. I firmly believe that it is in fact an ISO 200 film, and it just does much better with a touch of overexposure. Whatever you want your film to look like, you can do it that way, but I really wouldn't shoot it more than, say, 100, and definitely would not underexpose the film at all, because it will just become a muddy mess, and try to get it in best ideal lighting conditions as possible. So then I also started doing sort of a standard film review where I talk about film stock that I've developed in 4 different chemicals, and talk about the developing, the scanning, and what other sort of developers that it works well in. And I really liked how I formulated my review of Eastman XX with sort of the spy motif. I know it was a little bit over the top, but I really enjoyed putting that together at the beginning, the cold open of the channel. And I liked the results I got, especially because I was able to borrow my good friend James Lee's Pentax 672 to shoot the film in, and I just really loved the results I got out of the film and sort of the journey around Oakville. So, and then the second one is another favorite of mine, and that's Adox CHS 102. These ones sort of where I sort of firmly planted my Rolleiflex as the camera of choice for doing these video format film reviews, and really being able to pull out what I think are some of the best images I've gotten out of CHS 102, and getting a chance to shoot it in 120 format. Unfortunately, the 120 format seems to be incredibly popular, so it's very difficult to find for sale these days, but that's perfectly okay. I'm sure it'll become available again. All right, so the last type of reviews that I've started doing here on the channel this year, well, no, I did some last year, but including on the channel are developer reviews. Now, my first time doing a developer review was Kodak D96, and it was definitely a little bit rough, but since then I've gotten a really good formula on how to sort of make those developer reviews flow well for the video space. And This year I actually got a chance to review developers that I've really liked. I got to revisit a few developers that I've reviewed in the past and really got to explore them in more detail and try them with different film stocks, different dilutions, and really dig into them. And first up is Compard R09 Special. This is a modern formulation of Agfa Studionol. And I discovered on the bottle that it's no longer actually made by Agfa, but rather it's made by Bini Photo. So in fact, I was using Bini Hydrofin when I thought I was using stuff, Agfa produced stuff. And let me tell you, the Hydrofin stuff is absolutely fantastic. It is truly a direct copy of Agfa Studionol. It works with the set times for the 1 to 15 dilution, the 1 to 30, and the 1 to 31 dilutions. And the best part is the folks at Bini Photo have even come up with their own dilution, 1 to 39, and it works on some of the film stocks that in the past only had a 1 to 15 dilution, and it works beautifully. And one of the more important things that I've gotten to do later in the year was try the 1 to 15 dilution, which resulted in some short developing times, like under 5 minutes. And let me tell you, they worked. It gave me consistent results that were really good, and I got a chance to experience Studionol as a majority of photographers who used it back when it was produced by Agfa. And I'm really looking forward. I have a little bit left, so hopefully it's still good for me to use a little bit later in the year or even into next year. But I'm not fully counting on it. There's just a little bit left, so maybe enough for one roll, and hopefully it's not a very important roll just in case it is dead. So another developer that I got to review this year was Legacy Promik X. Now this is a modern clone of the legendary Kodak Microdoll X. Now I have developed film in Microdoll X before, but I've only developed a small number of rolls of film with it. I only used it in the stock dilution. I didn't really fully explore what Mic X and Microdoll X could do. So I made a point to use it in both stock dilution, the 1-to-1 and the 1-to-3. And let me tell you, the results are absolutely fantastic. I really like the results I got. My personal favorite is the 1-to-1 dilution, which sort of gives you the best of both worlds by sort of taming visible grain while maintaining or slightly enhancing the edge sharpness of a film and giving you that nice contrast. It's definitely a worthwhile film developer to try and pick up if you have access to it. I know that I will certainly be trying it a little bit more maybe next year if I run into situations where I am shooting some film that I really want that more classic fine grain look. Another developer that I got to revisit is Kodak D19, this time produced by Canadian photographic supply manufacturer Inflict Films. Their MQ19. It is an absolutely joy to work with, and the best part is I got to work with different film stocks from my original review. There was really only one overlap, and that was Ilford Delta 100, but I made a point to shoot it in 35mm instead of 120, like I did when I reviewed the developer in its form from Photographer's Formulary. And let me tell you, the results are absolutely fantastic. The only ones that I wasn't too big a fan of was Fomapan 400, but I've had trouble with Fomapan 400 this year, especially in 120, with multiple rolls just not working well. So I'm not going to blame the developer. I'm going to say that there might have been a bad batch of Foma 400, which isn't surprising. I've had a bad batch of Foma 200 before in the past and gotten terrible results out of it. So MQ19, I got to shoot it in my beloved Tri-X, which celebrated its 70th anniversary this year. Yeah, and I really like the results I got out of it, considering the fact that I found the times on Flickr with only one example, and it worked beautifully. Another one was Adox HR50, where again I found times online and thought that they were far too long for the speed of the film and the type of film it was, and even after I reduced it, it took a lot of effort to pull results out of. So that's one of the joys about posting and doing these reviews, is that I can make mistakes and sort of give you a benchmark and give you a suggestion that if you want to try it, you don't make the same mistake I did. And eventually we all work together and we come up with an ideal time for that combination. And the final developer that I reviewed this year is an old favorite, and that's Ilford Microfin. And what I really enjoyed about using Microfin this time around was I developed a roll of Roll-Eye Retro ADS with it. Now, I've never used this combination before, and Retro ADS has always been a bit of a difficult film to get a handle on, especially when you're shooting it under high contrast conditions. It just really amps up that contrast inherent to the film itself. So I really like the results I got between Retro ADS at ASA 80, unfiltered with Microfin stock. It just produced a beautiful, still high contrast, but not over the top contrast. And I really, really enjoyed, it's just a really great combination. Highly recommend it. Now, the one thing you may have noticed in my videos is that I've always ended it with a bit of a tagline. And that tagline was originally, get out there and make something awesome happen. And that in itself is a phrase used by a friend and urban explorer, Don. And he always said to go make something awesome happen. So I figured that would be a great thing to do, because photography in itself and creating photography is pretty awesome. I was watching the John Williams special on Disney Plus, and I watched how this man could create music from blank staff sheets, and thinking, wow, the creativity in him is just absolutely amazing. And then I thought harder and think we as photographers can do the exact same thing. We can look at a scene and we can figure out what we want to create with it. But since then, that tagline has changed, and I'd like to go back to the studio and explain what the phrase means, where it comes from, and give you a chance to dig a little bit deeper into my creativity. So the idea of this new tagline came while recording an episode of Classic Camera Revival. Myself and Bill Smith were interviewing the incredibly talented photographer Kelsey Smith. If you haven't checked out his work, you totally should. I'll leave a link in the description to not only the episode, but also to Kelsey's website where you can see his brilliant work. So Kelsey loves to photograph everyday family life using a Leica M6 and Lomo 800 speed color negative film. And he does an absolutely brilliant job with this. But he also made the crack that, you know what, people are gonna look at me funny because I'm using this high-end premium rangefinder camera to essentially do snapshots. And that got my mind working, and I finally landed on a tagline that I think really captures my view of not only my own photography, but other people's photography also. And it goes like this: shoot what you love. So shoot what you love. You don't necessarily need to love the subjects that you shoot. Love is a fairly strong word. What I mean to it is shoot the subjects that are meaningful to you, that have meaning to you, because if you photograph subjects that are meaningful to you, you are going to end up with brilliant photos every single time. So if you love photographing your family, photograph your family all the time. Don't stop doing it. If you love capturing images of doors, photograph doors. If you love food, photograph food, landscapes, architecture, details, macro shot, flowers, pets, animals. Look, be the best at the subjects that are most meaningful for you, because if you are constantly focusing on subjects that are simply what is currently trending within the social media space, those photos aren't going to be good in your own mind, because unless someone is paying you, the only person who matters, whose opinion matters about your photos, is yourself. And you can always be your own worst critic. So as long as you love the subjects that you're shooting and they have meaning to you, the images will always turn out amazing. With what you love. So with what you love. Again, love, very strong word, but what I'm getting at here is that use the gear that is also meaningful for you. If you're constantly switching up and upgrading your camera or getting something new because it is currently what is popular, then you're never going to get the images you like out of it, because you're constantly having to learn a new camera, a new way of shooting, a new way of composing, whatever. Look, there are a ton of amazing cameras out there, both in the film and the digital space. So you don't have to use mirrorless if you don't like mirrorless. And I did not like mirrorless. Yeah, my A6000 was a great camera and it was great for what I was doing with it at the time, but I was never fully invested in the system. I am much more of an SLR guy. And for that reason, I have very few rangefinder. That's why I like borrowing Leicas, but I would never own a Leica because I have no attachment to the rangefinder format. It's the same with the fact that I love square format, but I never got along with my Hasselblad. I much preferred the TLR, which is why I have the Rolleiflex 2.8F with the planar lens. I get the same optics as the Hasselblad, but in a format that is far more meaningful to me and I work with a lot better. In the same way, you don't have to have a certain camera to be considered a good photographer. You can photograph the subjects that matter the most to you on whatever camera matters the most to you, even if it's your phone, on what you love. Okay, so this part is similar to the second one, where, again, like, the unit you're using to capture the images doesn't matter. So same with the medium. It also doesn't matter. Your photographs can be bad whether you shoot it on your phone, on your latest and greatest Sony mirrorless or Nikon mirrorless or Canon mirrorless, or a 15-year-old digital point and shoot camera, or even on film. Just because you photograph it with the current trending medium doesn't necessarily make it a good image. A good image is whatever you think is a good image. If it is a meaningful subject shot with a camera that you are really connected to and know really well, on a medium that you know really well and know how to manipulate it in a way that you can execute the vision that's in your head, then it's a good photograph. I love seeing other people's photos. I may not always like what the subject matter is, but if I can see passion in how the image is created and that it all has meaning to the photographer, I see that and I'm like, wow, that person really knows their stuff. I may not like the subject matter, I may not be much a fan of landscape or landscape photography, but I can appreciate a really good landscape image because the person who has created it has put themselves into it, and it makes it a meaningful image to them, which translates into a viewer going like, yes, this person knows what they're doing. I love this person's work, despite not liking it. Don't give in to the hype. So don't give in to the hype. We are, as humans, we are creatures of habit. We want to try out, especially within the photography sphere, there's always that group of people, and I do count myself in them, who loves seeing the latest and greatest in regards to tech. And I get it. There are new cameras coming out, there's new sensors coming out. Pentax just released a new 35mm half frame camera this year. Companies are putting out new film stocks. FOMO released Ortho 400, Ferrani released P33, Harman introduced Phoenix, and these are all great things, but I think sometimes we are too busy chasing the hype and not enough time spending time with the first three things that I mentioned. Subjects that matter to you, that are meaningful to you, cameras that you know and love, and can really work well with, and mediums that are the same way. I love trying new films, I love trying new cameras, but as someone who also creates that sort of content online, it's kind of part of what I do. But when I'm actually out there making photos, I'm using stuff that are tried and true. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and drop the money on the new Rollei 35 AF or the Pentax 17, because I don't really see those being an essential part of my photography. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to try Pentax 17. I would love to try a Rollei 35 AF and review both of them and give them my honest opinion and view of them. But I'm not going to drop that kind of coin on those cameras because it's just what's currently being hyped. I will definitely try out things, and if I really like it, I'll get into it. And along the same lines as not only gear, but also subject matter and editing styles. If you're constantly changing to match whatever is currently trending on social media within the photography sphere, you're never going to be able to build who you are as a photographer, what your brand and what your style is, if you're constantly shifting to keep up with what is the latest and greatest. And that actually rolls into the next statement. Don't play the algorithm. So I'm going to come right out and say it. The algorithm is not your friend. It is designed to make money for advertisers and people who pay these companies to push their content to whomever they choose to. I challenge you this. Next time you see an ad on either your Facebook or your Instagram feed, click on the ellipsis menu, that's those three dots, and select why am I seeing this? And chances are the content of that ad has nothing to do with what you are interested in. I get pushed stuff for pet food because I've shown an interest in photography. I don't own a pet. I know people who own pets, but I don't own one. But the simple matter is that that advertising company paid money to Meta to push their ads to people who may not necessarily be their target market. So anyone who comes online and says, I will make the algorithm work for you, you just have to do these three things, is lying to you. The only way to make the algorithm work for you is to pay the money. So I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but there is no magic trick without paying money to make the algorithm work for you. So simply don't play to it. Post things that are meaningful for you and be your own best cheerleader. And you know what? Engagement isn't everything. Like counts isn't everything. And if you are seriously considering doing photography as a business, pay the money to advertise your work to the clients you are hoping to attract. Don't give in to the hate. First off, there are a ton of people out there who are totally different from me, who face this more than I do. And I'm ashamed to say that it's people who look like me who are giving it the most to the people who don't look like me. And that's wrong. And it's something that as a photographer, I try hard not to give hate. If I don't like a subject matter, I simply scroll past. If I see an image of something that I don't entirely agree with or don't entirely post with, I disengage. I don't go in there, I don't feed the trolls, I don't try to engage the people who are trying to, stir the pot a little bit. It is so easy in the online space to say whatever you want because we are hiding behind the anonymity of a screen. And it doesn't make it right when you can spew hate and vitriol online with limited consequences. So if I see stuff like that, I simply go like, nope, I'm not interested, or I go and I block that account, because I don't need that in my life. I don't need that level of feeling of being angry at what someone has said online. And in a similar way, it's important for you to, when you are given hate in your comments, to delete them, to block those people. There's no shame in doing that. You shouldn't be exposing yourself to that level of emotional damage. And it has nothing to do with freedom of speech or freedom of expression, because you aren't denying them that. You're simply protecting your own rights to health, happiness, and liberty. Because if you're constantly being fed a stream of hateful comments, that's going to affect your mental health. It's also going to affect your happiness. And liberty means that you are free to not be exposed to that sort of things. So in the old internet adage, simply don't feed the trolls. Don't give hate, but don't take it either. And if you seriously feel that they are breaching the terms of service of whatever platform you're on, except for Twitter, report them. Always report them, because you might win and they might get removed from that platform, and that's a win for everybody. And if they don't, they're blocked. They won't be able to see you unless you're on Twitter. But that's a whole other ballgame. And don't stop. Well, folks, I think this is a great place to end off the video. I am so incredibly grateful by every single person who has taken time to like my videos, watch my videos, subscribe, leave a comment. It makes it all worthwhile. And it's hard to believe that 2025 will mark 5 years of my relaunched channel here on YouTube. And I never thought I would make it this far. I thought it would, go on for a couple of years and then I'd lose interest. But every time someone clicks that like button or leaves a comment, it makes it all worthwhile and drives me to create again and more and better. So leave me a few comments below. What are your photographic goals for 2025? How can I help you achieve them? Is there a video topic you want to see me cover? And more importantly, if you have a burning question that you want me to answer about me, my photography, my life in general, leave it in the comments also with the hashtag AskALP. Over the course of next year, I will be compiling these questions and doing a whole video of just me answering them for you. And as for the topics, I will definitely try to include those in next year's video cycle, if possible. I've already gotten a few ideas from people, so I am definitely working towards that. A couple I've already put out, but more importantly, we had one where someone was asking about the best film for skin tones. Now, I'm not much of a portrait shooter, but a good friend of mine does want to have a photo shoot with me again, so I think it will be great to combine that topic with the video. So, my friends, I'm going to leave you there. I hope you have a great holiday season, however and whomever you celebrate with, and I will see you in the new year.